that was the time also I saw as an opportunity to start, my blog and get everything started. So I remember the times when during the maternity it was still manageable, but when I went back to work after the 3-4 months, and I realized that I had to keep up with the whole consistency of putting out the blog out there, and communicating with the people and doing up all the photos and everything. I was like, wow, this is a lot. And I would go on. I think after work, I will come back, take care of the kids. When they go to sleep, then I would be like, struggling to finish up the blog until about 3-4 a.m. in the mornings, and then go to sleep and then quickly wake up in the morning to go back to work. And that was a very trying time for those few months.
Welcome to another episode of Navigating the Rise. Today I have a really interesting individual, Vivien Yap from Singapore. So she does many different things, from enneagram training to influencer marketing. I'll let her briefly introduce herself so people can better know Vivien Yap.
Hi, George. Hi. Okay, so I live in Singapore, and basically I'm an enneagram trainer and a coach. And when I started my motherhood journey about 4 years ago, that was when I decided to, go into this whole influencer marketing thing. And I love fashion. So that's why, I love all things fashion, all things, runway. So that's why runway mommy. Although a lot of times people mix it up. People will say, "Are you runaway mommy?" And I'll be like, yeah. Most of the time I feel like runaway mommy, but yeah. So it was born out of my love for fashion. And I really wanted to share my journey being a new parent, but also that aspect where I love, fashion, beauty, and everything. Yeah. So that's how I started.
Interesting. Yeah, the runaway, like running away with the baby. Get a baby and run away. Cool. So curious about let's go a little bit deeper into the both areas. One is you mentioned about enneagram, one is about being motherhood, and one is about being fashion. So I'm curious about how the transition happens from being enneagram, how that applies to motherhood to influencer.
Okay. So basically for enneagram training, we use that to hold workshops to train corporates in communication, leadership. So it's a personality profiling tool that it's not that widely known in Singapore. I think in US it's more popular, but
really?
I really love it. Yeah, because unlike this personality profiling tool gives a really clear path of direction and growth that you can take. So beyond the, hey, you are this type, it's like so what are you going to do about it, and what do you do after that? And that is our main focus. So from there, we also do coaching with one-to-one clients. So we help them to be confident and find their strengths, and the gifts of each of the types.
Wow, I didn't know that something like this existed, because I know what's popular in the US is a thing called Myers-Briggs. I believe it's called MBTI.
Yes.
So that's been really popular here.
Yes. Right.
Enneagram is actually pretty new to me.
It's something like that. It is something like that. So Enneagram, I love it for its clear path of growth. Yeah.
So I looked at it and I noticed that they broke Enneagram within each type. They broke it in different levels, what level you are.
Yes. So there are 9 types.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
So it was interesting. Of course I took it too, but it was just very interesting for me to figure out, wow, interesting. I wonder how they map it to MBTI. And when you mentioned about the different levels within each type, and I was like, interesting. So you can tell, like you said, you can tell where you are in the growth phase and what's the ultimate, you can say, potentially the ultimate highest level, if you agree with whatever that's the highest level or not. So it's very, very interesting. So please continue before I cut you off. You
So,
mentioned enneagram.
so yeah, so basically I did that full time. And I also did some youth mentoring work full time. And then, so when I became a mother, it was quite a big transition for me because I'm not the stay at home mom type. And yeah, I'm quite driven and I like to work actually. So I when I was on my maternity leave, which in Singapore we have about 3 to 4 months off, and so that
Again.
was when I decided, okay, I'm not gonna do nothing, which is actually not nothing because during that maternity time, you're trying to rest, you're trying to heal your body, you're trying to take care, you are feeding your kid every 2 to 3 hours, and you have a whole bunch to do actually. But that was the time also I saw as an opportunity to start, my blog and get everything started. So I remember the times when during the maternity it was still manageable, but when I went back to work after the 3-4 months, and I realized that I had to keep up with the whole, consistency of putting out the blog out there, and communicating with the people and doing up all the photos and everything. I was like, wow, this is a lot. And I would go on. I think after work, I would come back, take care of the kids. When they go to sleep, then I would be like, struggling to finish up the blog until about 3-4 a.m. in the mornings, and then go to sleep and then quickly wake up in the morning to go back to work. And that was a very trying time for those few months.
How did you actually cope in that crazy schedule?
With very little sleep, and I don't drink coffee, so I drink green tea. So a lot of green tea. Yeah. Well, I think I loved it. I loved the process of writing, of, styling the photos. And so when it's your passion, I guess it's easy for you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So now do you still stay up till 3 a.m. doing everything?
No, thankfully, I hardly do that. Now I've passed that phase, thankfully. I must admit, I do blog a lot less though. So, but I guess, I'm more focused about enjoying the process and connecting with my base. So I'm not so active on the blogging side, but Instagram, I'm still quite, active.
Cool. So let me go back a little bit. So you mentioned about like how you have a kid now, right? When you're so busy. 2 kids.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm saying like you can actually hire kids to do the work for you.
I wish. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. They do though, some products really have to involve them because I do I represent a lot of parenting brands. So inadvertently, I do have to involve the kids. So, but it's fun for them, like, hey, there's this new toy. Hey, look, there's this new thing. You want to check it out? And so it's like it's part of fun to them.
I see. Well, that's good. You can combine work with play. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
So one thing you mentioned here that's very interesting. I think it's very common within all of Asia is the concept of maternity leave and you're resting your body. That concept that's actually pretty foreign in the U.S. culture.
Right.
People will actually literally, if they're not of Asian descent or they have Asian influence from like people who are earlier generation within Asia, normally moms right after they give birth, within a week they go back to work.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's no that concept of resting your body and etc. Even though you probably need it after that intense labor. But in the US, that wasn't a very widely adopted culture. Now this maternity leave, the leave is more on spending time with the baby as opposed to resting your body, right? So the angle is very different. So it's interesting to see that that difference. Cool.
Yes. I mean, your body has just gone through a major operation and, the major change. So, I believe in it. It's important. So during that confinement period, we have stuff like you can't wash your hair, you can't touch water, you can't be like have the fan directed at you, the draft. So things like that, which I guess, has its merits. Like after I had my second one, then I really took care of my body, like because I didn't want to have any more kids. I was done. So I thought, okay, I better do a good maternity, a good confinement, and then move on from there. So some people, they believe that if you don't do it well, you will have after effects like body aches. You don't age as well. The body doesn't heal as well.
But I have a question now. I'm really confused. If you can explain that to me, it'll be really awesome. You mentioned about no washing hair, no touching water, and not have any fan directed at you. So I'm curious about the base of why that's the case. Because from my perspective, it just seems really, I just can't understand it.
Yeah, actually, to be very honest, I don't fully understand it as well. Like the draft, I know it's about the wind, like not being good for the body, and then the wet, the water. Okay, so for me, I lasted about a week of not washing hair. And then I couldn't, but there are people I've heard who really go through the confinement period which is like a month, and not, wash their hair and stuff. So not bathe. So basically you're just supposed to towel down and stuff like that. So, but nowadays the doctors actually do advise, to say that you can, you must wash your wound, you must wash, you must bathe, tell your mother-in-law that it's okay. So the doctors are kind of like for it. Yeah, so I don't know. So I listened to them. I did the best that I could. 1 week and like, okay, that's it. I can't. And then thankfully my mom and mom-in-law, they are cool. They are, quite modern, and they pretty much let me be. So that was good.
I'm so curious of how that came to be, because I imagine labor is very hard work. You're sweating a lot after labor. So that means you kind of like, you have a lot of sweat glands coming out. So I would imagine you want to shower. So I'm just very interested and a little bit perplexed about the not showering. What about the water part?
I don't quite know. Like, I don't quite know how to explain it to you. But anything cold, anything draft, it's a no-no. So, yeah.
Maybe that's why. It's like maybe for the shower thing too.
Yes.
So like you wash it, and then you reduce your immunity is already reduced. And you wash we have cold water or anything like whatever, it can potentially reduce your immunity further. So maybe that's why. I mean, so you know how in the past, even now, I'm sure that it's easier to get a cold in the winter or whatever, right?
Okay.
Because the weather, right? They will say that, but if you look at actual science, it's not the case, right? And the actual science says that you get infected when the virus goes into or bacteria goes into your specific part of the body, right? But there is some merit to what they said before, is because when it's cold during winter, normally it's drier too. In parts of the world, it's drier. So when things are dry, guess what? It's when you swallow, it's harder to get the virus and bacteria down to your stomach where it gets killed. So instead, it lingers longer in your mouth. And when they linger longer in your mouth, they increase the chance of you getting infected by the bad bacteria that can travel through your airway, etc. So there's an indirect way why that's the case. But as opposed to like cold weather cause sickness, it's more like cold weather increase the chance of you getting sick. So
I guess. Oh well.
Yeah, well, that's still very interesting to me. So now you mentioned a little bit. Now you focus more on connecting with your base and not as much on the blog. So when that transition happened, and what caused you to make that decision?
That happened maybe after about three years. 2 to 3 years. So at the beginning phase, it was a lot about archiving, your kid's journey. And I really wanted to, my memory is really bad. So it was a way for me to really remember these little moments and their growth, and things like that. So, but 2 to 3 years, I guess it was also in the timeline when my little baby came along. My second one came along. So it was also honestly harder to, juggle everything. So I didn't want to give myself that kind of pressure that it became something, unhappy. So for me, when I was younger, I went through a bout of depression. And it was quite serious. I had to see a psychiatrist. I had to take some medication, be on Prozac and stuff like that. So to me, after that, the journey is always very important. Like doing what you're doing and being happy while you're doing it is really very important. So I didn't want to give myself all these additional pressures. And I felt like, if I want to write, I write. If I want to do it, I do it. Yeah.
Cool. That sounds good. I like that style.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So there's actually something that's been said, like where how the time you spend with your kids, especially when they're growing up, it's not really for the kids, it's for yourself. Because the kids are not going to remember anything. It's basically for you to have an excuse and to relive your childhood memories that you never had, or you had but you don't remember.
Yeah, that too. Yes, I'm actually having a lot of fun at this stage. My older one is 4, my younger one is 2. When they were younger, I actually felt it was a little bit boring. I didn't quite enjoy that stage. But now that they can respond to you, they can, talk in their little baby voice. I'm loving this stage so much.
You think you just gotta freeze that time and have to never grow up.
Yeah, I know, right? But of course, this is the stage where they also need a lot of you. They're like every second, like, mommy. But I guess, it's part of it. I wouldn't exchange it for anything in the world. But yeah, I guess that comes with it.
So I'm curious now. So in traditional Asian cultures, at least the East Asian I know of, like multiple generations can stay under the same roof. Whereas in the US, for example, we just don't.
Okay.
I'm curious about in Singapore. Is it similar where the kids actually leave the nest around 18 to 20 some year old, or do they stay with the family over multiple generations? I'm curious about the spectrum around that.
Okay. For majority of the Singaporeans, basically it's until you get married, and then the natural progression of having your own house and shifting out to find your own place. And so we live apart actually after being married. So that's when we kind of shift out. But otherwise, you're home with the parents.
Okay, so
if you don't get married even till 20-something, 30-something, is just usually, you're still at home with them.
Oh, wow, that's so painful. Okay, got it.
So you shifted out early? Well,
yeah, in my 20s.
Compared to us.
Yeah, in my 20s. Right now, I have right now it's a lockdown, or the US going through a serious lockdown, right?
Right.
Of course. So this is what this episode is being recorded at. But but then I am actually, normally you would think that I can just move back with your parents so you don't pay double mortgage or rent, right? So but me, I'm even we're in this kind of self seclusion, I'd rather stay by myself than live with my parents.
You need your space.
Well, it's more I can just do whatever I want.
Yeah, I get you.
And not answer to anyone in any way.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's part of your personality. It's interesting, Yeah, it is for both of us. I mean, we are more of the introverted type, and we are okay to be alone and not feel lonely.
Are you a 4 too? Is that why you say that?
No, I'm a 5. So I'm close to you.
Well, I'm extrovert, introvert at the same time. So I think for me, I crave that physical interaction. but at the same
Connection.
time, it's like I like the freedom to not
Yeah.
worry about, you know, how I'm sure you're coming from an Asian household that Asian parents have a tendency to be very nosy.
Gotcha.
Right? So, well, like, I don't want to explain myself. It's where I
Yeah.
want to do things, but I don't want to explain myself in
Yeah.
any way or
Yeah.
form. I just want to do it.
Totally understand.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
you also mentioned a little bit before about the parenting brands, right? So what kind
Yeah.
of areas of parenting brands that I normally work with and that I really want to look forward to working with more in what kind of categories?
I think I look for things that are authentic to, um, like my kids, they're growing up, so things that are authentic to their age and their stage. So for me, oftentimes I'll be thinking whether is this really suitable? Is this really, you know, good for the kids? And not say take on the product per se just for the sake of it. Yeah. So, but yet I'm aware that my followers and they have different ages and their kids are at different stages. So I also want to cater to them. And so, yeah, it depends.
Cool. Yeah. So beyond that, I'm curious about. It's almost like you have too many things going on, right? So
uh,
I'm curious about what is it certain things I just want to do or love to do outside of these things you mentioned, or these are the things I love the most.
Yeah, I think these are the things that I really love the most if I can streamline it down. For me, starting the blog was also an outlet of expression. And, like to me, it's not just about um, being an influencer or the fame or anything like that. I really started out because I love the creative process that it involved. So the writing, the putting up of the pictures, the styling of the pictures, and all this is exciting to me. So in my job, I don't have this aspect of the creative outlet, which is very important for me to have that place where I can just create and be and express myself. So I saw the Instagram, the influencer part as that. And
Interesting.
training, I mean, enneagram coaching is what I do love. Helping my clients to find their confidence and see them through that journey of growth. I think that is like something that is really precious. So and I do feel it's my calling. Yeah, so I'm kind of enjoying everything that I'm doing. But that said, I have moments that I feel like I can't cope, I can't juggle. And that's where I really have to learn to prioritize. Yeah.
Uh, so you mentioned a little bit. I mean, when I look at Enneagram and the coaching, I will imagine that involves some sort of creative outlets too, right? Finding creative ways to match a client to make them level
Yes.
up, right? And then
Yeah.
especially finding that. So I'm curious, is it because it's different kind of creative outlets I'm looking for,
Yes.
or what's the
Yes.
difference between the two when it comes to being creative?
Uh, I guess it also ties in with my love for fashion and beauty stuff
Uh huh.
for the,
That's good.
influencer part. So yeah, it's really different kind of creativity. Like the coaching and the training is a creative process of like the mind,
Uh huh.
and the influencer part is more of the creative process of my soul. I don't know if I can put it that way. Yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, I have to say, um, in that case, your husband is very lucky. Let's put it that way. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I shall not go there.
Well, I mean, because obviously, um, when you're dressing up, you can take care of yourself, right? So
Yeah.
then it's like, from a man's perspective, never have to worry about um,
Ah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
that that she'll look older than him, that kind of
Got
thing.
you. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's the part about, not forgetting yourself. So now self-care is very big, right? But I
Yeah,
think beyond the looks as well, it's that place where to me it's about pursuing your passion and your dream. So a lot of moms, after, it's very easy to get into that mode of mommyhood. And then meeting the needs of your kids, your husband, playing out all the different roles. And there's that place where you can forget yourself.
yeah.
So I always encourage my coaches, the people around me, to really have self care in the form of still pursuing your dream, regardless of how much you can do it. So, of course, as compared to when you're single and you can go all out for your dream and pursue it at
Yeah.
100%. Maybe now it's in a much less intensity and capacity, but still, whatever it is, like if you love fashion, if you love beauty like me, it may seem in the form of still, being inspired, following some Instagrammers or reading some online magazines that is in your that inspires you. So, and I don't know, like that's a good start, and that's like part of feeding yourself.
So, what are some advice you have for newly moms or long-term moms that they can still do with that? So, I'm curious about just specific things that you can say they have strategies that have helped you to pursue that passion
Mm-hmm.
while still being busy with the day-to-day activities.
Right. So, like I mentioned, if using this example, since we are already on it, where I love fashion and beauty, if you inspire to have your own shop one day, your fashion line one day, like it could be as small as, just browsing through magazines, being inspired, keeping, cutouts that speak to you, or it can mean sketching a little here and there, but it definitely would not be as intense as like, wow, you can be 24/7, onto it, sketching a whole collection, a whole line, meeting different people. Like it won't be like that, but at least you are still pursuing it the way that you can. Yeah, in the midst of all the different roles that you need to play, to your kids especially.
Interesting. So, I want to kind of transition a little bit. You mentioned also about your journey. I'm curious
Hmm.
about what are some of the challenges that you have faced in before you get to where you are.
Uh, Challenges that I face, I think it's the prioritizing part, and a
Uh-huh.
lot of it, dealing with the guilt that comes with whatever that you think you might be neglecting or you're putting at the back seat. So for us, in terms of training and coachings, there are seasons that is more intense. You have
Yeah.
back-to-back trainings and stuff. So that is when a lot of guilt came into play, when I had to leave, my kids. Sometimes I don't see them. I remember, for 3-4 nights in a row, and that really got to me. And I remember once when I was rushing back from a training session, and I literally was running, from the car park to the house, just to get a glimpse of my kid and hoping that they might still be awake. But when I went into the room, I realized that they were sleeping. They had slept already, and I just broke down, and I cried and I cried and I cried. I was like, oh, I missed the chance to just, kiss them and say I love you and have them to hear that. So I guess, but yet it's a time like this that we really have to remind ourselves that we are doing our best. And the best looks different for different people. Prioritizing looks different for different people. And that in that time that I'm not there for them, I'm still providing them the best care that I can have. So I put them, with my mom, with my mom-in-law, and they love and spoil them to bits. So they're in safe hands, and that's fine, and that's the best that yeah, I can do at that time, and it's okay.
I
So
see.
the learning to prioritize and learning to deal with the mom guilt, yeah, that's important. Otherwise, it can really eat at you.
Right. Let's flip it the other way now. What are some things that's really simple or very easy that's been going on for you? Because I'm sure that a lot of time people have misconceptions of what's considered as difficult, but when I actually start doing it, it's actually really easy. Is there anything like that you have noticed that were something that was you imagined to be very difficult, but start doing it, it becomes a lot easier than you thought it would be?
Yeah, a lot of times when I am asked about my blogging journey, and then I would be telling them about how I started and I didn't
Uh,
sleep for so many hours, etc. And they'll be like, "Are you insane? How could you have done that during your confinement? Like, how?" They just don't understand like how I could have, gotten
uh,
it done because it's really quite tough in terms of your managing a new sleep routine. You don't get enough sleep, you have to care for your baby, etc, etc. So they are quite surprised, but I think for me, I realized that really it was because it was my passion and it was authentic to me. So it wasn't really that difficult. Like there was a momentum that came with my passion, and because I love fashion, because I love this creative process, so it became easy. So I always share with people who are thinking about going to the influencer line, the blogging line. I always tell them that they have to find that part where they love, because in this whole process there's going to be bits that you love and there's going to be bits that you hate and it's dreading and it's like difficult for you. So but to anchor in the parts that you really love, that is what's going to keep you.
Got it. Cool. So I imagine as an enneagram trainer, you have to make sure that everyone in your family is going to take that test and you're going to train them.
Yeah. I've got my husband, down to it. And so now, but really, with it, I guess with the understanding of the types, and it is that place where compassion can come in. So I always tell my clients that, hey, it's not for us to have more information, or it's not for us to hide behind bad behavior. Like, hey, I'm a domineering person, so suck it up, like you have to manage. But it's not about that. But it's really about that place where we understand each other's struggles. We learn to appreciate and see new light in loving each other's strengths, and with that understanding there will come a compassion for one another. Like, hey, you're not just out to be mean to me, and you're not just getting on my nerves purposefully. But yeah, it's really like, maybe it's difficult. What's easy for you is difficult for someone else.
That's true. Yeah, I completely agree. Cool. So just want to summarize everything we talked about. Let me know if I missed anything. We definitely talked about different things. So your background as an enneagram trainer, being a mother, and being an influencer in the beauty and the fashion space. And so we talked a little bit about the different cultures when it comes to maternity leave, where in Singapore is no washing hair, no water, or no friends. Right? Yeah. And then so also mentioned that we work specifically with different parenting brands, so where it basically speaks authentically, not just to you, but also to your followers who are different ages, but all mothers at this point. And then so also mentioned about having a great creative outlet is important for you as a way to not stop, and as a way to also, because of that, it's touched upon your passion. It's easy for you to do things. So for people who are actually having trouble, for the moms, it'll be better to just whatever you do, pursue your dream, even if it's a piecemeal 1 hour, half an hour. Don't let that stop, because it should not take your individuality away even after you become a mom.
Right.
And am I missing anything that you want to add?
Nah, you're good. You've got all of it down.
Cool. Awesome. Now, so for people who want to reach you, how can they best reach you?
They can reach me at my Instagram, runway_mummy.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Vivien.
Thank you, George.